Welcome to Cedars Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Michael Cox, and I am the worship associate for our virtual service today alongside our minister, Zachary Vincent. Before we start, let's pause to acknowledge that members of our congregation occupy the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of Coast Salish tribes. The homelands of the Squamish, Duwamish, Klallam, Chimacum people were ceded under duress through the Point Elliott and Point No Point treaties. We are grateful guests on these lands and affirm Indigenous sovereignty, both past and present. This acknowledgement does not substitute for the need to build authentic relationships with modern-day members of these tribes to learn about their living culture and history. Our faith community is sustained by the generosity of our members. Your contribution will nourish the spiritual growth of our community through weekly worship and ongoing programs that cultivate connection, belonging, sharing, and caring. Included in the video description and displayed on the screen is information to make a contribution to Cedars through our PayPal account. Please take time either now or later in the service to make a contribution to help sustain Cedars. Your gifts are greatly appreciated. Cedars is committed to being a welcoming and inclusive community. In all the beauty of languages, cultures, and skin tones that come together in our uniqueness, we welcome you. In all the ways you experience and express gender, we welcome you. In the beauty of who you love and how you love, we welcome you. With all the religious and ethical traditions that inform your spiritual life, we welcome you. Whether you come feeling whole, feeling broken, or anywhere in between, we welcome you. No matter how long you've been away, nor how soon you will return, we welcome you. You are invited to join us with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands. We welcome you today and always. When Reverend Zachary told me the topic for today's service was needs versus wants, I, of course, asked myself the question, what is the difference between needs and wants, especially in the context of the pandemic and our current social and political upheaval? Webster defines wants as to feel a desire for something, to wish for, while it defines a need as something essential or very important rather than just desirable. The operative word for me is essential. Over my life, what I would deem essential has changed, as I'm sure for you. When I was a kid, it was essential that I have the newest Stingray bicycle or a new baseball bat. And of course, those are not essential, but try telling that to a 10-year-old kid. When I was in my early 20s, my needs are pretty basic. I could pack all my earthly belongings into my 1974 VW Rabbit or backpack and explore the world. It was not essential that I was investing in 401k account or a home or even healthcare. But as I became a so-called productive member of society, what I thought was essential changed. This was especially true when I got married and had children. It was no longer just me. I thought I needed a nice house, healthcare, and steady income. Yikes, growing up. Once my kids were older, however, what I deemed essential started to change, and after I retired, it changed again. But what has not changed over time is my need to connect. Connecting with family, friends, community, the natural environment, and myself are all what I would consider essential. I think the need to connect stems from the early death of my grandparents, parents, uncles, and aunts. By 22 years old, I was pretty much on my own except for one brother. However, in the time of COVID, things have changed. We have virtual services, Zoom calls, social distancing in our backyards, and the occasional essential trip to Oregon coast. Thank you, Heidi. But to be honest, I'm getting tired of trying to connect remotely. I think some of that is because the need for me to connect with the world seems so trivial in light of the essential work that is needed in this country on racial and social justice issues, climate change, and of course, the impending election. The next few months really matter for the direction we take as a country and our place in the world. Of course, connecting with people is essential for making change, but sitting at home and participating in Zoom calls seems so inadequate given the enormity of the issues. So, what to do? I would usually try to make some hopeful statement on how to move forward and on a positive note, but today I'm not sure how to move forward or what is essential right now. But that's okay. I think sometimes we need to let issues ferment for a while instead of always rushing to solve them. So I dedicate the lighting of our chalice to the hope we can all find the path to determine what is really essential in our lives and those we love.
Please join me in the Cedars affirmation. As we come together to worship, we remind ourselves to treat all people kindly because they are our brothers and sisters, to take good care of the earth because it is our home, and to live lives full of love and goodness because that is how we will all become the best that we can be.
As we come into this space of worship together, I invite us to center ourselves with these words by the author Annie Dillard. We are here to abet creation and to witness to it, to notice each other's beautiful face and complex nature so that creation need not play to an empty house. So as we come together in this virtual space, may we commit ourselves to bearing witness to each other's face and complex nature as a reminder that we are not alone in the work of the world. Come, let us worship together.
We worship with open hearts, nurture a learning spirit, serve justice with compassion, and love without judgment. We worship with open hearts, nurture a learning spirit, serve justice with compassion, and love without judgment. We worship with open hearts, nurture a learning spirit, serve justice with compassion, and love without judgment.
So I'm going to tell you a story this morning that you may have heard before. It's about a little red hen who finds some wheat and then bakes some bread. So if you've heard it, keep in mind how the rhythms of that story went and what the message of that story was. That story featured a reoccurring line that said, "Not I, not I, not I." And so it was really a story about what happens when people don't want to help, when animals don't want to help. But I'm going to tell the story with a more of a you focus, and keep the old story in mind and see what you think about the new story. So, the hero of our story is a little red hen, and the little red hen finds some wheat seeds on the road. And she thinks, oh, this is great. My community needs food. And so I'm going to pick up these wheat seeds and I'm going to plant them. And I'm going to do all the work to turn them into bread. And the little red hen says, you know what? I'm going to need some help to do this. And so she walks along the road with her precious new wheat seeds, and she runs into Mama Skunk. And she says, Mama Skunk, can you help me plant these wheat seeds so that we can make some bread? And Mama Skunk says, oh, that's a great idea. I can't help you because my baby skunk is sick and I have to go home and help her right now. And the little red hen says, no problem, not at all. I got this. Go take care of your baby. And she walks along a little further and she runs into Squirrel. And she says, Squirrel, can you help me? I found wheat seeds. This is great. And Squirrel says, oh, I would love to help you, but you know, I have 3 jobs. And I just don't have time to help right now because I have to go to my other job collecting nuts for other people. And the red hen says, no problem. You go do your work. And the little red hen says, you know what? This one I can do on my own. I can plant these seeds. I have a beak. I'll just poke in the ground, put the seeds in, and watch them grow. And that is exactly what the little red hen does. And so those wheat seeds grow into magnificent stalks of wheat, and the time comes to harvest the wheat. And the little red hen says, I can't do this one by myself. I am gonna need some help. And so she turns to Rabbit. She says, Rabbit. Rabbit doesn't say anything. Rabbit! Rabbit! And finally, Rabbit takes his headphones out of his ears and says, yeah. Little red hen says, can you help me harvest the wheat so that we can make some bread for the community? And the rabbit says, can I keep listening to my music? The little red hen says, whatever makes you happy. Rabbit says, absolutely, I can help. And so they began to harvest the wheat, and they ran into Cow. And Cow says, you know what? I'm not very good at harvesting. I can't be much help. But when you have the bread, I'm happy to offer you some milk to go along with it. And so Rabbit and Hen say, thank you so much. And they harvest all the wheat. And now it's time to take the wheat to be milled. Little Red Hen says, I can't do this by myself. Can't do it by myself. And so she turns to Donkey. Says, Donkey, can you help me take our wheat to the mill to be turned into flour so that we can make some bread? Donkey lets out a huge sigh. And Little Red Hen thinks, oh, they're not going to be able to help. But Donkey says, you know what? I'm exhausted. I've been working so hard. People need help all the time. But for you, Little Red Hen, I'm happy to help. Just one time. And so they load all of the wheat on Donkey's back, and they head off to the mill, and they turn the wheat into flour. And so they come home, and Little Red Hen has tons and tons of flour and is ready to bake bread for the community. She thinks, I'm a pretty good bread baker. Bread baker. I can do this. And so she gets started, and then Chickadee comes to the window and says, hey, I'm really good. How come you didn't invite me? I make a great challah. And Little Red Hen says, I would love your help. Come on in, Chickadee. We can make all kinds of bread. And that is exactly what they do. Tons and tons of different kinds of loaves of bread, rye bread and challah bread and wheat bread, sourdough bread, all kinds of bread. And they make the bread, and it is all ready. And Squirrel and all the other animals come close because the bread smells so good. Rabbit says, we shouldn't share. They didn't do any of the work. Little Red Hen says, Rabbit, that's not how we roll here. There were good reasons that they couldn't help, but you know what? They need our bread, and we are going to share. And Rabbit says, Little Red Hen, you are such a good Unitarian Universalist. You are right. And so they invite everyone, Mama Skunk and Baby Skunk and the squirrel and the cow, and all of the animals come and take some bread home, and it is good. And that is our story for today.
I want to invite us into a space of prayerful reflection together. And so to start this preparation to enter this space together, I invite you to settle in, relax, and take a deep breath, breathing in and out. Continue to breathe. Notice how these breaths bring your body alive, anchoring you into this moment. And as we arrive into this space, I offer these words from the inflesh.com liturgy library for our prayer today. These words are written by the Reverend M. Barclay. Let us pray. Now is not a time for rushing past joy. Do not move too quickly from any good thing, not laughter or a sight of beauty, not a taste, a feeling, a companion, or a truth. These are gifts not to be wasted. Be generous in sharing. Linger and give thanks. Be excessive in awe. Just do not hurry through them as if they are not precious in the season of grief. When you encounter the harder things, still move slow. open to wisdom's guidance through pain. Listen patiently to your fear. Pause so that the voice of your body can speak. You cannot hurry heartbreak or loss and hope to make it through. And all this not only for the sake of your own endurance, but also for each other. When we tend inward, we prevent that which makes our spirit decay. When we nurture our soul, we grow in our capacities to contribute to the whole. Nothing much of value grows quickly. Not courage, nor healing, not love that liberates, nor justice that transforms. Not the new world we hope to grow from the ruins of all that is destroyed. Everything we need most for our collective soul to make it through this alive requires great urgency and abundant patience. Whenever possible, take a breath. And again, in the rhythm of life, best for growing our soul. May this be our prayer this day and in the days ahead. Amen. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to conflate the things we really need in life with the things we simply want? To give you an example, think of a grocery store. From the outset, we think that everything in the store is something that we need. Groceries. Seems essential. But I guarantee you, if you go and get a cart and start pushing it around the store and filling it with items, I bet in no time you'll find all sorts of things in your cart that you don't really need. Sure, the lettuce, milk, and chicken might be deemed essential as sources of nutrients, but how about the coffee beans, case of ginger ale, bottle of wine, the box of cookies? The list goes on. I want to be clear, though, that I don't have any judgment about this sort of division of items in our shopping carts. If I'm honest, a lot of the things that I listed are probably things that you would find in my shopping cart on a typical trip to the grocery store. I think it's important in life to have both our needs, those basic needs for nutrition, and some of our wants met. Life shouldn't be a stark existence that prioritizes utility or usefulness above all else. Do I need to stop and gaze into the face of a sunflower as I did earlier this week? Or to sit in the morning savoring the sips of my coffee? No. I could still exist without either of these experiences. But when I pause and imagine a world without this added layer of enjoyment, these feelings of sort of satisfaction that these experiences bring, when I imagine a world without those added details, I find myself wondering, what's the point? Arguably, life could continue without paintings and artwork. But still, that doesn't really sound like the type of world that I want to live in. So there was a time in my own life that I like to refer to in some of my sermons because it was a really formative time. And it took place in a 12-week period during the summer of 2011. It was a time when I felt myself stripped of many of the creature comforts of life. As many of you who know me to some degree might be aware, throughout college I used to spend my summers working on a gillnet boat fishing for salmon in southeast Alaska. The boat I worked on was named the FV Misery and was a 31-foot fiberglass hull that sat low in the water. The Misery was primitive. The name was very fitting, the Misery. There was no running water, no bathroom or refrigerator. The sole source of heat on the boat was a small diesel-burning stove that was also what we cooked our food on. For sleeping, there were 2 plywood bunks that were built into the curved front of the bow of the boat. Existence on this boat was really predicated on functionality. There was little regard given to the things you might want in a work or living environment. On this boat, it was all about what you truly needed. No extras, no extravagance, just what you absolutely and essentially needed. In a blog post exploring the distinction between needs and wants, entrepreneur Josh Hastings says that the distinction between needs and wants is sussed out by asking yourself the following 3 questions. Does it meet a basic need like food or safety? Will it be something you will need in 5 years or longer in the future? Does the item make you happy, and will it continue to do so? Does it make you happy, and will it continue to do so? The thing that I really like about these questions posed by Hastings is the way that they identify needs not only as things that keep us alive and safe, food, shelter, water, air, all of those needs. But Hastings also says that things that are enduring and bring us joy and happiness are also needs. These questions get at something I realized during my time on the Misery. As I said, this was a rather Spartan time. So many of the basic comforts I was used to were stripped away. I went from a comfortable queen-size bed in my apartment back in Bellingham to a foam pad and sleeping bag on a plywood bunk. Showers that happened about once a day before now took place once a week, if I was lucky. And my cell phone, which was always on hand, was now packed away in my backpack to be pulled out on the rare occasion that I found myself in need of a calculator, or when we finally made it back to port and I had cell service again. All of these were things that I thought I needed prior to starting on the misery. I thought I needed them. That somehow, without all of these things, I might die, just shrivel up and die. Or at least that my life would be just too unbearable or unentertaining to go on. But obviously that isn't true. It's not the case. I made it through all of my experience on the misery and years since then. And here I am in 2020 with all of you. Besides me coming to an understanding of all the things I can live without, this time in 2011 also illuminated a need I had not realized was there before. While on the boat, I kept a journal. I have it right here. I kept a journal. It started as a list of facts, tables with the number of fish that we caught each day, or what the weather was like, what time I woke up, what time I ended my workday, what we ate. As the days went on, though, these observations, these facts that I was listing evolved, and my journal became something more. The entries I made ended up taking on more of a poetic form. What once would have been a note about seeing an iceberg calve off of a glacier into the water now became a metaphor about boats being launched into the vast Pacific. What once would have been a mention of or description of the simple tasks that I had to do, setting the net, hauling the net, sorting the fish, became these grander descriptions. They became lines like covered in slime, blood, guts, and scales. One eye squinted shut from a jellyfish sting. I gaze into the dark water. I glimpse the silver bodies intertwining in the net, coming forth from mystery like revelation. This list of facts evolved into something more, into an attempt to make meaning, to enter into some form of conversation with, if no one else, myself. Looking back at how these entries evolved, I realize now the need in my life that they helped me identify. While on the boat, much of my day was spent in silence, or at least without talking. My boss and I, we got along well enough most of the time. We talked, but when you're on a small 31-foot boat for days at a time, there's only so much talking you want to do with the same person. This is what led to the long periods of silence that I experienced. Despite the lack of conversation partners, I still felt a desire within myself to share my experience and communicate my observations and emotions, the things that I was experiencing on this boat. I felt a desire to communicate this with someone. And that someone became my journal. This book was a partner I could turn to and help bring me those things, to help bring those things within me into the world so they could be seen and not just remain within myself. that the creation within inside of me could be witnessed. I used to think my desire to share conversation was something I simply wanted. That I wanted to have friends and coworkers and even strangers to talk with. I thought of it like buying a car with automatic windows or locks. They're a nice feature to have, but aren't essential to the car. Most of the cars I've owned haven't had these features, and I got along just fine without them. But looking back at how my journal entries evolved, it's clear this isn't the case. This need to see and be seen, to share in the presence of others, isn't just an add-on to life. It's an essential feature of what it means to be alive as a human being, to be part of creation. Such relationships, while desired, at their core, are necessary. We need them. We need each other. We need that relational experience. These relationships meet the criteria laid out in Hastings' system of questions. They are features of our life that make us happy and will continue to do so. They're enduring and bring us joy. Being seen, being heard, being really witnessed by ourselves and others isn't a frivolous feature to life. It is a fundamental need. This need doesn't supersede any of the other needs that are traditionally placed on the hierarchy that we are aware of. It doesn't supersede the need for air, or the need for water, or the need for shelter or food, or any number of those other needs that we know about. But still, our desire, our need to be in relationship, to be witnessed, I believe if left unmet, like any of those other needs, will eventually cause a failure to thrive. In the service description, I included a quote from journalist Peter Dunne, in which he says that the role of journalism is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. I want us to pause and think about this quote in relationship to our church community. Despite the comfort that many of us experience, myself included, I believe that this time has afflicted us all. Between the isolation, political unrest, and general uncertainty about what is to come, we are all dealing with a lot. It can be a little overwhelming. And in the midst of all of this, there still exists this fundamental and essential need to be witnessed. Over the past months, I've seen many contributions that members of this community have made to our Facebook virtual creativity fair. Like the journal entries that I spoke of, many of you have found new and creative ways of expressing yourself and to share that expression with our community, with the world, to take what is inside of you and to bring it out in a way that lets people know those internal reaches of your being. It's this feature of sharing our creativity, of creating and externalizing those things within us that really speaks to this dynamic of what I'm talking about when I say we seek to be witnessed, that we need to be witnessed. The need to take those things that exist inside of us and externalize them is real. To take the time to process what it is we are going through and feel like somehow that experience, even if it's held only in a journal, is shared. that it is held within a relational context. It's like Annie Dillard said in the words we shared at the beginning of our service. We are here to abet creation and to witness to it, to notice each other's beautiful face and complex nature, so that creation need not play to an empty house. I pray that in this time, we will continue to offer comfort to one another, to share in the work of meaning making, to find new and creative ways to bring those things we are experiencing within ourselves out into the world and bring them out in a way that invites relationship. This is a time to find new ways to be together, to meet the need that each of us has to be witnessed, to be seen, to be in the presence of one another. May we continue to meet in this space to bear witness so that we need not feel as if we are alone. To the glory of life. Please join me in extinguishing the flame of our chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our service this day has ended, but our service to the world and one another begins anew. Go forth in joy and a deepening commitment to transform the world through acts of compassion and justice. May it be so.